My 30-year-old son came home for a 3-month reset and forgot to leave. For over a year, my husband David and I had our son, Daniel, living under our roof. He'd returned to our home in Oakwood Falls after his 5-year relationship with Clara imploded. He was a wreck, barely eating, moping around, his eyes perpetually red-rimmed. Our hearts broke for him. He said he just needed a safe harbor to piece his life back together, a few months to save some money and find a new apartment. We, of course, said yes without a second thought. He was our boy and he was hurting. We gave him his old bedroom back, told him not to worry about rent or bills, that his only job was to heal. We cooked his favorite meals, gave him his space when he needed it, and listened for hours when he wanted to talk. The first few months, we were just glad he was getting out of bed and going to work. He has a good, stable job as a software engineer, so we had every confidence he'd be back on his feet in no time. But no time turned into 14 months. The initial grief seemed to lift. He was going out with friends, spending a small fortune on new photography equipment and concert tickets, ordering takeout every other night. Yet, whenever we broached the subject of him starting to look for his own place, or even just contributing a little to the grocery bill, the shutters would come down. "I'm just not ready, Mom," he'd say, his voice taking on that wounded tone. The thought of being alone in an apartment, it brings everything back. I thought you understood. He'd accuse us of wanting to get rid of him, of not being supportive during the most difficult period of his life. We felt like monsters for even asking. He treated our house like a boutique hotel with full room service. Dirty dishes were left in the sink for days. His laundry magically appeared in the hamper, expecting to be washed and folded. And he came and went as he pleased, often stumbling in late without a care for who he might be waking up. I once asked him on a Saturday morning if he could help his father with raking the autumn leaves. He sighed dramatically and said, "I just don't have the mental energy for manual labor today. I'm still dealing with a lot." That same evening, he was out at a bar with his friends, laughing and posting pictures on social media. David and I started feeling less like parents and more like exploited landlords. We're in our early 50s. David is 54 and I'm 51, and we were looking forward to this chapter of our lives. The two of us rediscovering our hobbies, maybe traveling a bit. Instead, we were bankrolling the lifestyle of a fully grown man who was acting like a teenager on a permanent vacation. The frustration was a slow burn, simmering just beneath the surface of our quiet concern. We finally reached a breaking point. After a particularly trying week where he'd used up all the hot water for 3 days in a row and left the kitchen a disaster after a late-night pizza party with his buddies, we knew we had to act. The few months had stretched into a year and a half of him taking and us giving, with no end in sight. We loved him, but we were being taken for a ride. So we sat him down for the talk. We had a printed agreement ready, hoping a formal approach would make him see how serious we were. The terms were more than fair. For $150 a month for rent and utilities, a pittance compared to real-world costs. Him do his own laundry and cleaning up after himself, buy his own groceries, and a firm goal to move out within the next 6 months. We offered to help him budget and apartment hunt. We presented it with as much love and empathy as we could muster. The reaction was nuclear. He stared at the paper as if we'd handed him a death warrant. "You're treating me like a tenant?" he hissed, his voice trembling with anger. "I can't believe this. I come to my own family for support, and you draw up a contract? What is wrong with you people?" We tried to reason with him. "Daniel, we've supported you for over a year, completely free of charge. This is about you taking a step toward being an independent adult again. We will always be your parents, but this situation isn't healthy for any of us." He wasn't having it. "You have no idea what I've been through. Clara shattered me, and now you're nickel-and-diming me while I'm still healing? You're the most selfish people I've ever met." He snatched the agreement, crumpled in his fist, and stormed out of the house, slamming the door so hard the pictures rattled on the walls. For the next week, he gave us the silent treatment. He'd slink in and out of the house, avoiding us, his face a mask of betrayed fury. We felt awful, second-guessing ourselves constantly. Were we being too harsh? Had we pushed him too far? The guilt was a heavy weight. Then, almost 2 weeks of the day after the blow-up, he emerged from his room and tossed a signed copy of the agreement onto the kitchen table. "Fine," he muttered. "I signed your stupid paper. Now will you get off my back?" He transferred the $450 that same day and, true to his word, started doing his own laundry. He began buying his own snacks, though he still helped himself to our groceries more often than not. It was a start, but the atmosphere in the house was icy. He was complying, but he was letting us know he resented every second of it. Just as we were starting to think maybe, just maybe, we were on a path to normality, a new complication arrived. Daniel started seeing someone new. Her name was Isabella, and she was very, very pregnant. We initially assumed the baby wasn't his. The relationship seemed so new, and she was already showing prominently. But that quickly became the least of our problems. Isabella started coming over, constantly. She was at our house every single day, often staying the night. They would take over the entire living room, spreading out with blankets, movies, and food, treating the space like their personal lounge. She left a toothbrush in the bathroom, a hoodie on the coat rack, a pair of slippers by the door. It felt like she was slowly moving in, and we hadn't even had a proper conversation with her. Our home no longer felt like ours. It felt like we were intruding in Daniel and Isabella's shared space. My discomfort grew with each passing day. She was a pleasant enough young woman, but she was essentially a stranger, and her presence in our most private spaces was unnerving. David and I approached Daniel one evening after Isabella had gone home. "We're happy you're seeing someone," I began carefully, "but having Isabella here every single day and night is a bit much for us. This is still our home, and we need some privacy. Maybe even spend more time at her place, or limit the overnights to just a few times a week." He immediately flew into a defensive rage. "Oh, I see. You're judging her. You're judging our relationship. You claim you want to be happy and move on, but the second I do, you can't stand it. You have to find something to criticize." He accused us of making Isabella feel unwelcome, of being jealous, that he wasn't moping around anymore. We tried to explain, again, that it wasn't about her. It was about the sheer frequency of her presence. He refused to listen. "If I had my own place, you wouldn't have any say in who I have over. You can't have it both ways." The conversation went nowhere. The very next day, Isabella was back, and the cycle continued. We felt trapped. He was technically adhering to the written agreement. We had never thought to specify rules about guests. A few days later, the truth behind Isabella's comfort level was revealed in a shocking way. I was in the kitchen making tea when she wandered in. Daniel had run out to grab a coffee for her. We made small talk, and then she said with a warm smile, "It's so great that you and David are so cool about everything. Daniel was worried you might be difficult, but you've been amazing roommates." I froze, the tea bag dangling from my fingers. "Roommates?" I asked, my voice faint. "Yeah," she said, looking a little confused. "I mean, I know you're his parents, but he said you all kind of co-own this place? That you live here to help him with the mortgage and stuff? Since his name is on the deed, too." The floor seemed to drop out from under me. I was too stunned to launch into a full correction. I just mumbled something like, "Oh, we're definitely his parents, and this is our house," before making a hasty retreat. Later, we confronted Daniel. After a lot of blustering and claims that Isabella had misunderstood, He finally admitted it. Okay, fine. I might have let her think I owned the place. So what? I didn't want her to think I was some pathetic loser, still living in his parents' basement at 30. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal? David's voice was dangerously quiet. You lied about our home, Daniel. You demoted us to roommates in our own house. That is profound betrayal of our trust and a massive sign of disrespect. He just shrugged, his expression sullen. Everyone lies a little when they're trying to impress someone. You're blowing this way out of proportion. We were livid. We told him in no uncertain terms that he needed to come clean to Isabella immediately. We would not be party to his lie. He mumbled a non-committal response and retreated to his room. We were at our wits' end. The idea of giving him a formal eviction notice, something we never thought we'd contemplate, was now firmly on the table. Before we could act on that threat, an even bigger bombshell dropped. We found out the truth about Isabella from our daughter, Rachel. She had stayed in touch with Clara, Daniel's ex, and they had met for coffee. Clara revealed the real reason their relationship ended. She had discovered Daniel was having an affair. The other woman was Isabella. And Clara added bitterly, Isabella had contacted her a few months after the breakup to gloat that she was pregnant with Daniel's child. The timeline clicked into place with horrifying clarity. Isabella was 7 to 8 months pregnant. Daniel had known he was going to be a father for most of the time he had been living with us, playing the heartbroken victim. His devastating breakup was a direct result of his own infidelity. He hadn't been hiding from grief. He'd been hiding from the consequences of his actions. We confronted him with the evidence. He tried to deny it, but the facts were undeniable. Finally, he broke down and admitted everything. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd be disappointed. I was going to tell you when the time was right. And when was that going to be? I asked, my voice shaking. When the baby was born on our living room couch. Then he delivered the final, staggering blow. It doesn't matter now. We've already made plans. After the baby is born, Isabella is moving in here with me. We're going to set up the nursery in the office. It makes the most sense. You'll get to have your grandchild right here, and you can help with babysitting. Daycare is insanely expensive. He said it all as if it were a foregone conclusion, a done deal that required no discussion or permission from the actual homeowners. The sheer, unmitigated audacity took our breath away. We were so stunned we couldn't even speak for a moment. It was David who found his voice first. You what? You decided that your girlfriend and your newborn child would move into our house? Without asking us. Of course, Daniel replied, as if we were the ones being unreasonable. Where else are we supposed to go? You have the space. It's your grandchild. You should be happy to help. We're going to need your support. It was at that moment I noticed some of our things from the home office, a filing cabinet. Some of David's books were piled in the hallway. He had already started. He had begun converting our office into a nursery for his child in our home, without a single word to us. I lost it. Stop. You stop this right now. You do not get to make these decisions for us. This is not happening. Daniel's face contorted with anger. Wow. So you put your own grandchild out on the street? You'd rather have your stupid office than help your own family? What kind of grandparents are you? The manipulation was breathtaking. He was using our future grandchild as a human shield to guilt us into subsidizing his entire life. He expected us to provide free housing, free utilities, and free childcare for his new family, indefinitely, while he continued to live responsibility-free. The sense of entitlement was staggering. We told him, in no uncertain terms, that under no circumstances would a baby be raised in our home under this arrangement. He was livid, screaming about how we were abandoning him, how we were cruel, how we'd never see our grandchild. He painted us as the villains in his self-created drama. The conversation ended in a stalemate of tears and rage. That night, David and I talked for hours. The love for our son was a painful, tangled knot in our chests, but it was overshadowed by the clear, cold reality of the situation. We had enabled his irresponsibility for too long. Allowing this to continue would be the utter destruction of our own peace, our finances, and our retirement. We had to choose ourselves. The next morning, we handed him a formal, typed 30-day notice to vacate the premises. We made it explicitly clear that his tenancy was ending and that Isabella was not, under any circumstances, permitted to move in. The meltdown that followed was worse than any we had seen before. It was a torrent of screaming, crying, and venomous accusations. He said we were ruining his life, that we were dead to him, that we would die alone and regretful. He told us we would never, ever lay eyes on our grandchild. The words, "If you do this, you no longer have a son," will echo in my mind for the rest of my days. It was brutal, soul-crushing, and absolutely necessary. We held firm. We gave him 30 days. He didn't need them. About 2 weeks into the notice period, everything fell apart for him. Isabella, upon finally learning the full truth about the lies and the unstable living situation, broke up with him. She realized he had no plan, no integrity, and no capacity to provide for her and a child. We heard through Rachel that she moved back in with her own parents, who were going to help her with the baby. With his relationship in ashes and his free ride revoked, Daniel packed his bags in a furious hurry. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't leave a note. He just loaded his car one afternoon while we were out and left. He sent one final hate-filled text message. "Hope you enjoy your empty house. You got what you wanted. Don't contact me again." Now the house is quiet. The silence is profound, a physical presence that is both a relief and a sorrow. We feel a deep, aching grief for the son we have seemingly lost, mixed with the undeniable, guilty relief of having our home and our lives back. The constant stress and walking on eggshells are over. We reached out to Isabella through a polite and careful message, expressing our desire to be in our grandchild's life if and when she felt comfortable. She replied courteously but distantly, saying she needed to focus on the birth and her own healing, and that perhaps we could discuss it in the future. We understand. The bridge to our son is burned, and the path to our grandchild is uncertain. This entire ordeal has left us scarred. We never imagined we would be forced to essentially evict our own child, to choose our own well-being over his toxic dependency. The guilt is a ghost that lingers in the quiet rooms of our house. But we know, with a certainty that settles our resolve, that we had no other choice. We had to close the chapter on the manipulative, entitled man he had become, in the desperate hope that one day, perhaps, he might find his way back to being the son we remember, and we could love him from a healthy distance. For now, the storm has passed, and we are left to rebuild in the uneasy calm.